Hey everyone, this is Meg with another current release game review, and today I'm going to be talking about Amy. Now, I was actually going to film a review for this when I finished it last night, but didn't get the chance because it did take me a little while. So I thought I'd do it as quickly as I could today for you guys, as I really want to talk about it and have a lot to say. So pay attention, because there'll be questions afterwards. No, I'm kidding.
Everything is going to be okay, I promise.
Now this is the story section, but I kind of wanted to talk about the dialogue and the voice acting in general first, seeing as it seems to be the one main complaint, which I can sort of see. Now the voice acting is a little lackluster, it could be better, but I think what doesn't help matters is a language barrier. The actual dialogue itself is quite mismatchy. For example, there's a section in the game where you have a tutorial box that shows up that says, if you are enough contaminated, move slowly. Which obviously should be, if you are contaminated enough, move slowly. There are also sections in the game in which Amy can hack terminals, and Lana comes out with statements each time she does this that are along the lines of, well, this is just like what we did at the lab, you know, this is all a game. Except there are a couple of statements that sounded really mismatched. For example, she says at one point, "This is a game for you, Amy," which sounds a bit like "this is a game to you, Amy," which isn't, I think, the feeling they were trying to create. So they probably would have been better off scripting perhaps, "Here's a game for you, Amy." You see the subtle difference? And I think there was a kind of language dialogue barrier here that didn't help the voice acting in general. Now, I'm not gonna lie, the dialogue is funny in parts. I'd say though, on a scale from Silent Hill's Harry,
my daughter, I've got to find her,
to Forbidden Siren's Yoriko Anno,
Professor!
huh?
I'd say it's a Harry. It's a little flat and kind of cartoony in places, but it doesn't ruin the experience entirely. The story itself revolves around two main protagonists, Lana, who I guess is you know what, I don't know who she is, but she's looking after a girl called Amy, who she seems to have rescued from a containment laboratory type location. And Amy turns out to be exceptional in many ways. It seems like an explosion has caused all these people to gain teethy, jokery smiles and turn into very scary, bitey individuals. So we basically follow these characters as they try and avoid the monstrosities and soldiers who are seemingly after Amy, as we're discovering who Amy actually is. The characters I thought were really interesting, specifically Amy, although there's not a lot of information on them, which I guess could bother some people. Then again, having said that, the ending is a major cliffhanger. So I expect there's more to come. At least I hope there's more to come. There are story cutscenes in-game, but most of them are still shots and graphic novel style images, a bit like Mirror's Edge, only a lot better. And I prefer motion cutscenes or in-game or cinematics or whatever you want to call them. But this didn't bother me too much in Amy because there weren't too many and there weren't too few. They came in at just the right time, I think. So it worked well. I loved the gameplay of Amy. It took me right back to the Silent Hill, Forbidden Siren days of hardcore survival horror gaming, where you'd spend an hour or two trying to A, figure out what you were actually supposed to do, because there were no hints, of course, and B, plan what you were going to do if you knew where you were going. There's lots of to youing involved, which is really challenging because you have to kind of figure out how you're going to approach a level. Like I said, much like old survival horror, well, old games in general really, where you had to think about what you were doing before you did it. And the fact that you have to move around occasionally without Amy adds a lot of challenge considering the contamination that slowly kills you the further you are away from her. Puzzles are few and far between. When they do arise, they're in a sort of sequence hacking form that has been devised so you can't really cheat. Combat is a darn sight better than most survival horror games. She swings well, and the swings impact well, which is good in my book. Your weapons range from big sticks to kind of plastic coated crowbars with metal tips, which is much better than an umbrella or a gun you can't aim. I guess I want to address too in this section really quickly the main problems I read in reviews. That I read as many reviews as I could before I actually bought the game because I wanted to see what the reasons were for such abysmal scores. So there are two things. The first thing that made me go, what? After I'd played it, was someone had mentioned, well, many people had mentioned actually, the difficulty with the breaking of weapons. Now, bearing in mind I played it on normal, so perhaps this changes with difficulty. There's only easy, normal, hard, but maybe on hard they break every 2 minutes, or maybe it's changed ever so slightly. But weapons do break after a few good hits. That looked really rude. Maybe after a few hits. But there were plenty to pick up if you took the time to look. There are hundreds of weapons strewn around everywhere, and that includes syringes as well. But they are in really kind of obscure, you have to go off the beaten track. They're in obscure places. But that just makes you work for it. The other issue that was raised was about Amy herself. A lot of people had a hard time dealing with her in-game, since she's AI and a companion that you have to guide as well as work with. People were saying that it was very hard for them. I found it very easy. Now, as I said before, she's a very, very special girl. So she has abilities that include healing you. Her heartbeat speeds up when an enemy's near, so you can use her as a little radar. She has a little lamp that can guide you through very dark places that have goodies in and extra, bits. That's integral in some parts. Oh, and her skills. Let's just say she's no meek Minnie. I mean, I didn't let her out of my sight for most of the game, 95% I would say, and the game went fairly smoothly for me. Treat her well, utilize her gifts, and things will go well for you. If you kind of abandon her or leave her in a locker for too long or something like that, then it's not going to go well for you. So the only way I can figure that people had a really hard time with the AI is they did just that. Ignored her as a part of the game, when in actual fact you can't survive it without her. Checkpoints are scarce and there's no saving capabilities sort of mid-level, so if you can't stomach a lack of regenerating health or autosaves every time you blink, then you need to play something else. The graphics were nothing to complain about. I swear I read a ton of reviews that really crapped on the visuals. I thought they measured up just fine. I thought it was quite fun actually to point out the little futuristic touches within the level. It had a very dark, not too distant future vibe, which was really nice. But I really thought the animation and the character motion, specifically with Lana and Amy, really shone. For example, when you're guiding her around by the hand, Amy's bob bounces so realistically, I couldn't stop looking at it. Yes, I know, I'm weird. When Lana holds Amy's hand as well, it moves and looks very natural, unlike Eco, for example, which I love the game, but the holding hand mechanic is very jerky. But all of the movements involving both Lana and Amy are very smooth. Another thing that I just wanted to mention on the movement rant was that Lana moves differently when she's carrying a weapon. Think Sarah Connor with the broken handle in the Asylum Escape. She moves very much like that, and I thought it was a really great touch. I mean, a lot of the movement is littered with little touches like that, which I thought was really nice. So overall, I really like the graphics and the visuals. I've heard a lot of people saying that they're dated, so I guess this just falls down to an opinion thing, but I think they look great. No problem with them whatsoever. music was great. I don't know any of the titles. I'm pretty sure they don't actually have any titles. One of them sounds a little bit like a homage to Silent Hill, which is a very nice track. There's another one that has the feeling of a 70s slasher film. If I could get my hands on it, I'd love to play it so I could show you, but it sounds kind of a bit like Clay Bells. That's gonna sound really stupid, but it sounds exactly like it just came right out of Nightmare on Elm Street or Friday the 13th or something. And there's also a really heavy drum bass track that every time it plays, my heart starts pounding in my throat. The sound effects were really great too. I can't really say that they're any more spectacular or any less spectacular than other horror games, but it works incredibly well. So the score is very minimal. There's not a lot going on there, meaning number of tracks, but it works incredibly well. Overall, I don't feel this game is worth a 1 or 2 out of 10 at all. In fact, I'm a little annoyed. I've spoken to many people who are just dying, pun intended, for the return of the hardcore classic survival horror games with little weapons and insurmountable odds dripping in atmosphere and really hard challenges with no hints. Well, here it is. And unfortunately, it's all of those elements that have given it an abysmal score. The game itself is not what I would call like a full-length feature. Obviously there's more coming. This felt very much like the first installment of more Amy games. So for $7.99 on the PlayStation Network, I think you're getting more than just a bang for your buck. You're getting like something bigger than a bang for your buck. I don't know, insert appropriate word there. Breaking weapons and lack of syringes posed little to no issue for me. But like I said, I played it on normal. And some chapters, 5 and 6, it was excruciatingly hard to figure out what you were supposed to be doing without hints. And I relished it. If you prefer modern fast food style gaming, then definitely play something else. But I don't know, if you like classic survival horror that challenges you and doesn't really give you any breaks or hints or tips, then Amy's for you. And for $7.99, you're getting a lot of game. I guess the last thing I'm going to say in this video, and I guess about this game, is that this is purely my opinion. I played it and I really enjoyed it, but then again, one of my favourite games is Forbidden Siren 1, which is notoriously user-friendly, but one heck of a gem. I don't let critics or reviewers decide for me what games I should and shouldn't be playing or what films I should and shouldn't be watching. If I followed their opinions, I would have missed out on a ton of projects that are just genius. So I guess what I really want to say is, ignoring the abysmal scores, if you were interested in this game, you were before or still are now, play it on the cheap if you're really that cautious, but just try it for yourself. You might be pleasantly surprised, or you might think it's rubbish, but the point is you've got to decide for yourself. I think the one disappointing thing about this is that I've heard hundreds of opinions and judgments made about this game from people that haven't even played it yet. So I hope you enjoyed this review. If you've played the game, please get back to me. If you don't want to do it on here, I have a Facebook page to which the link is in my channel, main channel box. You can find me there as well. Yeah, so please get back to me. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye! Every time I move, it makes the background move, and I'm really animated, so we're gonna have some real troubles here if we don't straighten up. But very little information is given about them. On them? That wouldn't be grammatically right, would it? Let me think before I actually talk. That would probably help, wouldn't it? From a scale of... no, on a scale of... oh! You! I remember you! Wait! I don't know what's going on. Tell me what's going on! Chop and change and figure it out and do all the combinations of crap. I wouldn't mind throwing up, just so long as it wasn't right in the middle of what I was saying. It's that... no, I'm not gonna go into more... Lara! Lara? My god, I know the names, I'm just having trouble. Breaking weapons and syringes. The lighting's very pink. The whole room looks pink, and I'm looking at this and it looks, well, pink. I have no idea why. I'm so hungry. I'm so hungry.